الله أكبر.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Today's short talk, or the theme of today's talk, centers around a very famous ayat in the Holy Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا, which means that human beings or insan are such that they tend to dispute and argue a lot. Now, unfortunately, there is this kind of trait which is inside us, that whenever we are told the haqq or the truth, we always have an excuse. Even though that excuse doesn't make sense, even though that excuse is totally way off track, even though that excuse we put forward avoids any understanding or is void of any understanding of or logic, we will still make that excuse. And eventually we do admit to our mistakes. But you will see that firstly there will always be an excuse. And this unfortunately is how human beings are. And first and foremost, what we need to do is to get these things out of us and to accept the haqq and the truth without all the time using or giving petty excuses. I'll explain to you two hadiths where this particular point can be beautifully understood. The first hadith, which actually led to this particular ayat being revealed, was that once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam visited Hazrat Ali radiyallahu ta'ala an and Hazrat Fatima radiyallahu ta'ala anha at night. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked Hazrat Ali that, do you wake up for tahajjud? Do you pray tahajjud? Do you pray? Do you stand in the night worship? Which, don't get me wrong, him being a sahabi, a very famous, well-respected, virtuous sahabi, he did do tahajjud. But perhaps it wasn't to the standards which perhaps Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam expected. In other words, perhaps 1 or 2 days he may have missed it. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked Hazrat Ali radiyallahu ta'ala an that, do you wake up for tahajjud? So the response Hazrat Ali radiyallahu ta'ala anhu gave was that my soul is in Allah's hands. When Allah wills, I'll wake up and pray. When Allah doesn't will, I won't pray. Now Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, without saying anything, he got up and he walked out of the house. And whilst he was walking, he then said these words, وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا. Because here, the simple answer Hazrat Ali radiyallahu ta'ala anhu should have given was that, sorry Prophet of Allah, I don't wake up regularly or every day for tahajjud. It's my fault. But Sayyidina Ali, he kind of used the excuse here and he said, well, my soul is in Allah's hands. In other words, when you go to sleep, an-nawm akhul maut, as mentioned in the hadith, Allah's taken away your soul. So, even like for us, like if we were to ask somebody like students or many people that you wake up for tahajjud, they'll use the argument, yes, if Allah wakes me up, I'll wake up. If Allah doesn't wake me up, I won't wake up. They'll use those kind of excuses. Or for Fajr, do you pray Fajr? Or they'll say, if Allah wakes me up, they'll kind of put the blame, na'udhu billah, on Allah. Or if Allah wakes me up, I'll wake up for Fajr and tahajjud. If Allah doesn't, then I'll just keep on sleeping. And this was an answer Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't like, because when you look at the reality is that, I'm sure we woke up early in the morning where there's been flights or where we had a meeting or where we had to go somewhere at 3, 4 in the morning. In that situation, there's no such thing as Allah wakes us up and so on. We make sure we wake up. Forget that about we make sure we wake up. We don't even get to sleep at night. Because we don't want to miss the flight, we don't want to miss the meeting, we don't want to miss the train, we don't want to miss the bus. We make sure that we basically wake up at that time, or we'll make sure that we don't go to sleep. We'll do something like that. But what I want to explain is that it was an excuse which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't like. Another example I'll give is that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the companions decided to expel the Banu Nazir from Medina Munawwara because they broke the treaty. So again, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam approached the Banu Nazir, he said to them that Ya Ma'shar al-Yahud, O Jews, Aslim Taslam, which means that convert to Islam, Aslim Taslam, and you will be saved. So again, the Jews, instead of accepting Islam and acknowledging that Islam is a true religion, they responded back to Prophet ﷺ and said, Ya Muhammad qad ballagta. In other words, yeah, O Muhammad, you've conveyed this message already. We've heard it many times before. So these are like two examples where the haqq was there for them to accept Islam, they brought out some excuses. So what I want to explain in a nutshell is that whenever we are in the wrong, this is all part of rectification of the heart. Yeah, Islam teaches us these things, that sometimes we should also accept and admit to the truth and not just like waste time and bring about silly or petty excuses which logically doesn't make sense. Obviously, don't get me wrong, if, say for example, if you are being accused of something which is wrong, then for you to respond back, you've got a right to do that. It's permissible for you to do that. That's different. But when you know you're in the wrong, it's your mistake, then it's always good to kind of like accept your fault and accept that this was my wrong and just accept that, rather than putting petty excuses in these things. And as I was just saying that, look, if you think you've been accused of something wrong and you want to defend yourself, then so be it. You should defend yourself. Just very quickly, there's a hadith that the people, they would give gifts to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be spending the night with Hazrat Aisha. That during Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha's turn, everybody would give gifts to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Because everybody knew that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be in a good mood because he is with Hazrat Aisha. And when somebody's in a good mood and you give him a gift, then after sallallahu alaihi wasallam he would be even more happier, even more pleased. So everybody would always give gifts to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha's turn. Now the other wives would be upset and jealous that all the gifts are being given to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam during Hazrat Aisha's turn, not on our turn. So it's a detailed hadith. Then what happened was that they sent Salama radiallahu ta'ala anha to speak to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then they sent Hazrat Fatima to go and speak to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ignored their pleas, ignored the complaints they were making because it wasn't a valid complaint. Then lastly, Hazrat Zainab radiallahu ta'ala anha went, and she went to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's mentioned in hadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Aisha was sleeping in one bed. They had one shawl and one duvet over them. So Sayyidah Zainab radiallahu ta'ala anha went, and she was then, say in a way, criticizing Hazrat Aisha in a negative way. So it's mentioned in the hadith that Sayyidah Aisha was looking at Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam whether she should respond or not. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't say anything, or is mentioned in the hadith that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gestured that Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha can reply back, Sayyidah Aisha then defended herself from the criticism which Sayyidah Zainab was making against her. And then eventually the hadith finishes off that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam smiling and saying to Sayyidah Zainab that this is the daughter of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. So in other words, you messed with the wrong person, so you shouldn't have basically argued with her. But what I want to explain is that that's an example where a criticism was made which was totally untrue, unfounded. So then for somebody to argue back or to kind of say something back, then that is right. But where you've done the mistake, where you've done the wrong, and then to put forward petty excuses, silly excuses, and this is something which we should try to kind of ignore. Yeah, sometimes even though our natural instinct unnecessarily tells us that, oh no, give your side of the argument, which we know sometimes doesn't even make sense. It's our fault, and we still even then make excuses. And you could tell from the excuses that no, it doesn't even make sense. But what this particular is telling us that no, sometimes it's best to just admit our fault, just be quiet and listen and accept, and in that way you get to learn sabr, patience, forbearance. Allah gives tawfiq wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.